In the post-COVID-19 pandemic period, we do believe that the green transformation issue will be at the core of our recovery, and we're taking steps to this effect. The green transition of the industrial sector is also one of the aspects that I have announced in the economic reform package that I declared in March. Of course, such a transformation is creating the need for investment and financial opportunities. No government or no sector it can actually realize such a large transformation on their own, and we know this very clearly. Thus, starting from the green transformation and in other areas, we do believe that the strategic cooperation that is going to be established at the global level is of utmost importance. I do believe that the efforts of President Biden is to be appreciated, especially in regards to this aspect. Climate change is a global phenomena, and of course, unfortunately, countries are not at an equal footing. We see developing and developed countries, and I do believe that the sharing of the burden amongst these countries should be created in an equal manner, and this is going to be strengthening our fight against the climate change. In the pathway towards 2030, the common but differentiated responsibilities and comparative skills principle is going to be the main basis of an equal footing and an equal framework. In relation to the greenhouse gas emissions, Turkey does not have much of an historical responsibility, but we do believe that Turkey needs to be evaluated at an equal footing in relation to the global climate change regime. We do believe that we will be continuing to participate in the global climate efforts to be on an equal footing with countries at the same economic level. Whilst I'm ending my remarks with these thoughts and opinions, I would like to wish the summit to be bringing beneficial results for the future generations, and I would like to thank each and every one of you who have participated in the organization on behalf of my nation, and greet each and every one of you with my heartfelt feelings.
Thank you, Mr. President. We turn now to the President of Chile, President Piñera.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good afternoon. Your Excellency, I am honored to address you today, and I am also thankful to President Biden and Special Envoy Kerry for organizing this event, in which we can and must strengthen our commitments to fight climate change and global warming. As you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic is not the only threat that humanity faces today. Climate change has not been quarantined, but has continued its advance at a speed that urges us to take actions today so mankind can have a tomorrow. Chile is ready to do its part. Even though we are a small country responsible for only 0.25% of the total world's emissions, we are determined to have a significant and positive impact and to make a relevant contribution in our fight against climate change. How does a small country like Chile pretend to have such an impact? The answer is simple and can be found in the simplest of molecules, hydrogen. Green hydrogen is what Chile can offer to the international community. Our geography provides us with the resources required. In the north, the Atacama Desert receives the strongest radiation on the planet, while in the south, the Patagonia, we have some of the strongest winds on Earth. Once harnessed, these resources will allow us not only to decarbonize our own energy matrix before 2040, but also will allow us to become a neutral carbon country before 2050. And we will become the most efficient producer of green hydrogen in the world, thus helping other countries to decarbonize their own energy matrix. As we move towards cleaner forms of energy, we must not neglect the protection of some of the most vulnerable and exploited areas of our planet, the oceans. We have dubbed COP25 as the Blue COP, precisely to underscore the role of oceans, the role oceans play as a climate regulator, agent, and the importance of their protection. Chile has already established marine protected areas that cover over 43% of our exclusive economic zone. But it's not enough. And that's why today I want to invite you to go further by asking you to join Chile in two concrete proposals. First, the establishment of a marine protected area in the Antarctica, as we have proposed alongside with Argentina. This would protect the ocean around the Antarctic Peninsula, home to an incredible biodiversity, including endangered species such as penguins, whales, seals, krill, and small crustaceans, which serve as the foundation of the ocean food chain. And second, the creation of the first marine protected area in the high seas, specifically in the Nazca Ridge, an area identified as fabulously rich in biodiversity, abundant in endemic bottom species, and which has been designated as an ecologically and biologically significant area under the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. We are decarbonizing our electric network. We are becoming a carbon neutral country, and we are electrifying our transportation system. Finally, I want to share with you the Climate Change Observatory project. Under this initiative, we will create an integrated network of multi-parametric sensors installed throughout the country, covering more than 8,000 kilometers from the northern border until close to the South Pole. All the data collected will be publicly available to the world's scientific community and to any interested person. The fight against climate change and global warming cannot wait. Science has spoken loud and clear. Our citizens are asking us as a moral commitment to change the course of history. And science and technology provide us with the tools to achieve these goals. Chile has heard the message and is taking bold actions today. And I want to assure all of you that in all your efforts to tackle this threat, you will always have a committed partner in Chile. We owe this to ourselves, but most of all, we owe it to future generations. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you very much. And now it's a true pleasure and honor to introduce another leader, climate activist Xie Bastida. Xie grew up in the town of San Pedro Tultepec in Mexico. She's a member of the Otomi Toltec Nation. She's experienced firsthand the devastating impact of climate crisis. When Xie was just 11 years old, her town was hit by back-to-back years of climate-driven drought. Then the intense rains came, and then the floods. Her family was displaced, and she and her parents relocated to the United States, to New York. These dramatic swings in extreme weather are just one of the consequences of the climate crisis we're already experiencing across the world, including here in the United States, where at the same time as Xie's town was experiencing droughts and floods, the American Southwest was in the middle of the worst drought since the 16th century. After relocating to New York, Xie came face to face with another impact of the climate crisis in the lasting damage left by Superstorm Sandy. Wherever she went, she saw how changes driven by climate were hurting communities. So Xie joined the Fridays for the Future movement and was one of the young activists who led their fellow students and people of all ages to strike in order to wake up the world to the impacts of the climate emergency and to call on leaders like us to take action before it's too late. In the time since, she's given much of herself to the climate justice effort. She mobilized 600 students from her school to join the March 2019 climate strike. She led a push for legislative changes in her city and state. She launched a youth activism training program. She addressed the United Nations. For Xie, this isn't a hobby, it's a way of life. Xie is part of a rising generation of leaders who are pushing us to make the necessary changes that we've put off for too long. She and her fellow young leaders have earned a seat at the table, not just because they will bear more of the consequences of climate change or the world's inaction on climate, but also because of the urgency, ingenuity, and total dedication that they have brought to this effort. We've asked a lot of our young people. They're delivering. Now it's time we ask more of ourselves. Shia comes from a line of environmental activists. Her grandparents fought for decades to protect her indigenous nation's sacred lands in Mexico. Her parents were environmental advocates too. Something Shia's father told her continues to guide her activism to this day. And I quote, "Leave everything better than you found it." That's also our responsibility. It's what this summit is all about. And it's the underlying purpose behind all that we must do in this crucial year, in this decisive decade. If we act together, we can turn the need to reduce our emissions and adapt our communities into once-in-generations opportunity to improve the lives of our people and build more just, equitable, and sustainable societies. Shia, thank you. Thank you for all you've done to leave everything better than you found it. We're humbled and inspired by your service, and now we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Excellencies, President Biden, and honorable heads of state. My name is Shia Bastida. I am a climate justice activist born and raised in Mexico. I am one of the many young people who have already been impacted by the climate crisis, such as when my hometown was hit by flooding in 2015. I come to this summit knowing that I cannot possibly communicate all of the youth voices that should be here, as I am the only one of two who will be addressing you today. As much as it is a great opportunity, it is also a great responsibility. I did not want to stand here and read our concerns and demands, because if you had been listening, you would know what they are. Nevertheless, I think that it is important for all of us to be on the same page from now and moving forward. The climate crisis is the result of those perpetuating and upholding the harmful systems of colonialism, oppression, capitalism, and market-oriented greenwash solutions. The 40 leaders who are in this summit are in the majority from the global north, which has historically perpetuated these systems. The communities who are the most affected, those who have endured displacement because of drought, flooding, wildfires, crop failure, and human rights abuse, are not fully represented here today. Solutions must be aligned with the fact that climate justice is social justice. We can no longer keep having summits and conversations around what needs to change, because we already have all of the solutions that we need. So all we have to do is implement them. The fossil fuel industry and the systems that uphold the climate crisis rely on the existence of sacrifice zones. And these sacrifice zones have been intentionally picked to target the global south and Black and brown communities in the global north. This is why when it comes to sustainable solutions, we youth need to participate in decision-making spaces to ensure that the green economy track will not be replicating systems of exploitation and creating new sacrifice zones, because this is already happening in many regions of the world. Green economy with business as usual would severely affect frontline Black, brown, and indigenous communities. You need to accept that the era of fossil fuels is over. We need a just transition to renewables worldwide so that we can stop emitting carbon and focus on drawing down carbon. But most importantly, all of these solutions must be implemented with the voices of frontline Black, brown, and indigenous communities as leaders and decision makers. We demand that you stop fossil fuel investments and subsidies. We demand that you stop any new fossil fuel infrastructure and existing fossil fuel extraction, including pipelines. We demand comprehensive, non-Eurocentric, and intersectional climate education, including literacy on climate justice, environmental racism, ancestral and indigenous wisdom, on historical movements, disability justice, green careers, and sustainable living. We demand that you stop systematically targeting the global south and Black and brown and indigenous communities through environmental plunder, the exploitation of our lands, and neoliberal policies. We demand to get to net zero emissions by 2030 not net zero by 2050, including concrete plans regarding how to get there, biannual binding carbon budgets. We demand that countries increase their commitments to be in line with the Paris Agreement target of 1.5 degrees of warming, which is already a compromise for the Arctic, the Amazon rainforest, island nations, and much of the African continent. Here's where we hope that all countries replicate President Biden's commitment to cutting carbon emissions in half by 2030, because we must. We demand that global North countries recognize climate migrants as such. We demand that governments enact policies to protect land defenders and acknowledge our right to peaceful protest and mobilization. You will often tell us again and again that we are being unrealistic and unreasonable. But who is being unrealistic and unreasonable with unambitious, non-bold, so-called solutions? You are the ones creating and finding loopholes in your own legislations, resolutions, policies, and agreements. You are the naive ones if you think we can survive this crisis in the current way of living. You are the pessimists if you don't believe we have what it takes to change the world. If you want to know why youth activists are rising up, it's because we're striving for joy. Joy for our communities and future generations. The climate crisis is so violent and it has exacerbated so much injustice. It is time that you stop thanking us for being activists. It's time for all of us to rise together and recognize that the climate crisis is not only the biggest challenge that humanity has ever faced, but it is also the biggest opportunity that we have to change the world. To end, please keep in mind that throughout the summit, the Fridays for Future is holding a summit on April 23rd to say the things we want the whole world to know. My generation is making sure that there are alternative, inclusive, and radical discourses. In order for this summit to have an impact, it is imperative that our demands are recognized and implemented. It is not enough to ask what world we are delivering to future generations, but what generations we are delivering to the world. As youth, we want to make sure that we can continue to live in harmony with Mother Earth. Until we see the necessary paradigm shift, we will keep demanding holistic solutions, and most importantly, we will be watching and we will be organizing. Thank you for your time.
Xie, thank you very much for adding your powerful voice to this summit. People were listening, and I thank you. And to everyone who got the summit off to a start this morning, thank you very, very much. I think we're off to a good start. The conversation continues. We'll see you shortly. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.